Identifying character traits. Why do I need to know character traits? Notice that I've pulled the first bullet off of our anchor chart in our study of characters in our literary books that we're reading. Our first bullet from the chart says, expect characters to be complicated and show more than one trait. So, to be able to do this, expect that they're complicated and show more than one trait, you need to be able to identify their character traits in the first place. Character traits. Traits tell who a character is and are usually seen through action. Traits describe a character's personality. Ask yourself, how does the character behave? Confident, optimistic, brave, determined, protective, bossy. To find our character traits, we need to look at the text. What words are the authors using that give us clues? Most authors don't come right out and tell us the character is very bossy and always tells people what to do. Usually, the author will, through the character's actions, behaving in a bossy way or speaking to other characters in a bossy way, to show that the character is bossy. Or an author will also show how a character's traits through their inner thoughts, the thinking that the characters are doing. We're going to take a look at a couple of examples of evidence from our text, our mentor text, Popularity, with the character of Will, who, remember, Will has been hanging out with the Allens for months and is desperate to become a part of the popular group of kids that are playing together and enjoying each other at recess. So our first piece of evidence that we'll look at is right here, this top corner. We had been looking for four-leaf clovers every school day for 6 months, and each of us knew exactly what he would do if he ever found one. He would hold the lucky clover tight in his hand, close his eyes, and wish he was so popular that he would never have to spend time with the other two again. When I look at this, I think to myself, wow, he's thinking to himself that he never wants to be with them again. So these are people who've been there for him. You know, when he didn't have anybody else, they were there. And it makes me wonder if maybe he's uncaring. So I've used the sticky note and wrote uncaring and underlined the evidence that I think supports that he's uncaring. Is it possible that this text evidence could support another trait? Absolutely. So, certainly you can explore some other possibilities. But for this, I'm going to go with uncaring. The next piece of evidence that we're going to take a look at is here. I noticed that every time Mitch said something funny, he eyed Sean Owens to see if he was laughing. He was, silently. His mouth was open, but it was the laughter of the other boys that filled the silence. I realized then that Mitch was Sean's jester. As long as he could make Sean laugh, he was assured a prominent position in the group. So here is Will, standing on the outskirts. He's made the decision to go stand near the group of popular kids, or the kids that he perceives as popular. And he's taking in every detail that he can. He's observing and learning about them. And I think to myself, wow, this shows that Will is an observant person. And I wonder to myself, are there other times in the text that I'll find that Will is observant? Maybe so. Another place that I could look for some evidence of a character trait is here in this corner. I returned to the group every recess for 3 days. I stood, unnoticed, just outside the outer circle, waiting for my moment, for the one joke or wisecrack that would make me popular. When I read that text, I'm thinking to myself, that shows that he's very determined. Through his actions, that he's going to stand there every day, that he's determined to become a part of this group. And here, this section of the text, stand another day at the bottom. I wanted to be a part of the noise and the laughter. I needed to be popular. This is another part. In the previous text that he couldn't stand another day at the bottom. I wanted to be a part of the noise and the laughter. I needed to be popular. Again, this shows to me that Will is determined. He's determined that he's going to make it into this group, no matter what it takes. So this is one way that we can try to make some decisions about the traits that our characters possess. As we go further into the text, we might find more evidence that supports these 3 traits that are here, or we might find evidence that makes us feel that some of these actually don't apply. That's all part of keeping track and learning and studying our characters deeply. But using the evidence that the author gives us in the text, either of the thoughts that the character is having or the actions that the character takes, can help us determine what traits a character possesses. Now it's time for you to try. You're going to read this piece of text. Find evidence that Will is observant. Use markup to identify the evidence and upload a screenshot of this page with the evidence identified to Google Classroom. And so, with the single-mindedness of a scientist, I listened to the jokes the other boys made, hoping to align my comic sensibilities with theirs. Now and then I found myself on the verge of saying something, but every time I opened my mouth to speak, Mitch would launch into another routine, and my moment passed, and I had to resign myself to yet another day in the dark. I did not know then that popularity has a lifespan, and that Mitch's time was about to run out.